have Director Kelly Susewind from the Department of Fish and Wildlife up here shortly. And I also wanted to call up Representative Mary Dye and Executive Director Matt Morrison from the Pacific Northwest Economic Region to make a few opening remarks just on what we've been doing over the last few years to try and get to this point, and some of the work that we've seen from the Washington State Legislature, and then also what PNWER and our partners have been trying to do, trying to address this. So with that, I was going to check and see if we had Director Sussman. We can have him speak after Representative Dye and Matt, and we'll go ahead and have Mary with opening remarks here.
Thank you so much, and welcome everybody to this event. It's really, this is, you know, the premier group in the nation for a preemptive response to an aquatic invasive species that is entered into a watershed that is the 4th largest in the continent. And so much of our economy is based on this watershed, all the way through Canada and Idaho and Oregon and Washington. We depend on every resource, and this species is so aggressive, and you try to understand the impact that it can be. And I really appreciate the meeting, the film that, and the seeing an actual exercise in the water with this thing. I think we have to practice a lot. So how did I come to this is that I had been attending the Council on River Governance meetings and was joined with Senator Honeyford, and have been doing that for a long time before I was appointed to the council. I didn't know that you couldn't just barge in, but I did. I crashed the party, and you know, I'm a farmer's wife, but I'm an agronomist too, so you know, I know what it's like, how you have to have a really multi-pronged approach when you're dealing with invasive species. As a farmer for 38 years, we've dealt with controlling things like, you know, jointed goat grass, which is very closely related to our wheat species, to picking out all types of thistles. You know, it's just part of the thing. And I know how if you let a little patch of morning glory go, you'll have the entire farm covered with morning glory. If you let a single star thistle, the entire range will be covered with star thistle. And so this is best of class, first of its kind approach. And it's well worth the investment now. And the amount of people that PNWER has brought forward to this meeting, to these task forces, is unprecedented. And I cannot thank you for the commitment that our federal and multi-state partners have put into making this response real and effective. And I envision that as a result of the work that has been done by the Department of Fish and Wildlife and PNWER pulling this group of expertise together, that we will be successful in this watershed to preventing the catastrophic losses that have happened in the Great Lakes, in the Mississippi, in Lake Mead, and in the Southwest, in the Colorado. All of these things can be an example of how we can come together with this level of expertise. Things I've learned in the process is that the amount of work that's been ongoing for 20 years in the different agencies, putting all of us in the same room and throwing all that material on the table again and saying, what's the best? What's the first of kind? What is the best of kind? How multidisciplinary do we need? Where are the resources? Where's the money? Who do we need to advocate for? As an elected person, when I put the first $800,000 proviso on the table for the Fish and Wildlife, they didn't know what to do with it. And they figured it out, right? And so when the second proviso came in for $1.8 million, then we were able to move forward, and you can see the amazing work that these folks have been able to do. And I think that we need to keep adequate funding, but also to look to our federal partners and assure that they acknowledge the seriousness of the amount of economic resource that's dependent on these watersheds in Idaho, Oregon, and Washington, as well as Montana, and how critical it is to protect the nation from the harms that would come from a total loss of this watershed. And when they said that innumerable amounts of money regarding the fish, and Bonneville Power can correct me, but the most recent number I heard was 23 billion in resources that Bonneville Power has invested in fish mitigation, restoration, and habitat, and alterations of the hydropower system, additional work on hatcheries and ladders. And those are all things that impact my district. And we have people coming from all over the world to evaluate how we have done the work on the salmon. And the Nez Perce tribe, I would call them out as best in the world on your work that you do for fish restoration, and really grateful for the work that you do. And we cannot allow a stupid mussel to take us down. So thank you so much for coming today, and I appreciate everything that you do.
Director Kelly Susewind, can you hear us? Oh, we're having a little audio difficulty. We're gonna get you typed in here really quick. Just hold on 1 second. Okay, go ahead, Director Susewind.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we sure can. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So, as said, my name is Kelly Susan. I'm the director of the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. I apologize, my schedule didn't allow me to be there today, but I'm sure appreciative of all those that are. My message today is going to be really one of thank yous and encouragement as we take on this huge, daunting task we have in front of us. First, thanks to PNWER for helping us convene this summit, longtime champion and leader in prevention of mussels regionally. We wouldn't be here today without him. A huge thank you to who you just spoke, Representative Mary Dye, for her leadership on this issue. She talked casually about crashing a party, but it was really her foresight and ambition in September of 23 that said, hey, no matter how good a job we do in Idaho, it's not a certainty that that's going to eradicate these mussels. We need to get ahead of this better than we are. So she challenged our department, as she just described to you, and also funded us, importantly, to get this thing moving and look forward, develop a future state for ourselves. And that included the summit today. So we wouldn't be here today without the support of the legislature and Representative Dye in particular. And hopefully that will continue in the future because we have a lot to do. Also, I know there are a lot of tribal members. I wish I was there to see you today. When I think of threatening things for us environmentally, fish and wildlife and infrastructure all included, my first thought is how do we work with the tribes on this? Long-term co-managers, partners in all things environmental, has profound knowledge of these systems and a great partner. So where we stand today, we're going to test those long-time partnerships and we're going to build those going forward to make sure we can handle this. A big thank you to the infrastructure representatives in the audience. This is you're where the rubber meets the road, or the muscle attaches to the infrastructure, irrigation, port, shipping, etc., municipal water supplies. First, a thank you. I know a little bit about your work, and I know you never get thanked enough. It's hard work, and it's critical to our region and our economy, and it's just about to get harder because of what we're talking about today. You guys face this risk first and foremost, and you'll have to be integral into the solutions to help us manage it going forward. Thanks to our regional partners and federal partners, these stupid mussels, as Representative Dye called out, they're stupid enough that they don't understand political boundaries or government structures. And it's going to take all of us. No single organization is going to protect our way of life and economy and our environment as we move forward. So again, thank you to our partners, federal and regional levels. moving on to kind of the summit today. So as you heard, some of us have been working at this for a long time, a couple of decades. Other of you I know are fairly new to it. The time for a casual introduction is over. We're in a worse spot than we've ever been, or more threatening, I shouldn't say worse, but a more threatening spot than we've ever done before, this higher level of threat, and we need to be prepared for that. We've got, as you already know, quagga mussels in the Columbia, zebra mussels are making their way into our state. We have to worry about golden mussels as well. Thanks to the investments from the legislature, we've ramped up our invasive mussel prevention and readiness actions, as you've seen. We're stand ready to continue that, and we look forward to working with all of you and doing that. The support of the legislature is important like never before, and so it's going to take all of us working with our local communities to make sure we support the legislature in taking the actions we need. So I wanted to give a bit of a pep talk. It seems more of a downer because of what's in front of us, but we are positioned to get in front of it. The task is bigger than it's ever been, but we're in better shape than we've ever been. And thanks to all of you for being here as we shape the direction going forward to make sure we're in the best possible state of readiness and prevention. Thanks.
So thank you for that, Director Susewind. Yeah, that's very important comments we heard from you about just working together, and then also all the various partners. Without further ado, I was going to have Matt Morrison, our Executive Director from the Pacific Northwest Economic Region, talk a little bit about the history of some of the investments that have been made over the years, and also just all the hard work that everybody's put in towards this issue. In many cases, a lot of people that aren't familiar with it, they come and say, how come you let these mussels get in? And it's like, no, there's been years and decades of work that's been done to try and prevent these pests from coming into the region. And so I was going to have Matt give a little bit more detail on that, and I'll have him just go ahead and do that right now.
Well, thanks everyone for being here. I just want to say, PNWER represents 10 jurisdictions, 5 states, 5 Canadian provinces and territories. And we saw what happened in Lake Winnipeg, in Manitoba, where we brought photos to every legislature to see windrows of mussel shells 3 feet high that we couldn't bring the smell into the room. But people who were there said that, it just stunk like rotten fish for months after the ice pushed these mussels up. And then little kids who couldn't go swimming without tennis shoes. And for people to imagine their own water body like that was very powerful. It was our Alaska senator in 1998 who founded PNWER's invasive species work group, who said invasive species is the environmental issue of our time. And he was succeeded by Idaho's Representative Eric Anderson, who really took this forward based on Idaho's incredible model of trying to keep mussels out. And Governor Butch Otter, since really 2003, letter after letter to the Secretary of Interior about Lake Mead, knowing that it was Lake Mead that was coming up to Idaho and with fouled boats. In 2008, Eric Anderson started with our work group looking at invasive species council models. And we had 3 or 4 years of looking at what's the best invasive species council. And we looked at best practices until every state and province had an invasive species council. We started working with our congressional delegation, and for 8 years did, in some cases, quarterly workshops with the Northwest Energy Caucus staffers in Washington, many times in person with a slideshow about the impact of these mussels. Then we got, after Representative Eric Anderson went to the PUC in Idaho, Senator Jim Honeyford took his place. We, at one of our meetings, said we have to really identify the economic cost should we fail to keep these out. And Senator Honeyford was able to appropriate $50,000. PNWER did a study with Stephen Phillips and the 100th Meridian and revealed that in the 10 jurisdictions, it would cost $500 million a year, $500 million just to deal with the issues of hydropower and irrigation, etc., not to mention concerns about salmon habitat. So we took that to our congressional delegation. Finally, we finally found a champion in the Army Corps of Engineers, Tim Dykstra. What a guy. He was spending 2 years in Congress with the committee, and he helped us work with the WRDA legislation and get that into the authorization in WRDA. But it took 3 different iterations of changing the authorization language. The first iteration was, it was just the Columbia Basin, just the 4 states. And the legal eagles in the Corps said, well, these inspection stations can only be in the basin. And all of our states said, no, it's to protect the basin. So we had to put to protect into the authorization language. That took several years because we needed to protect the basin and have the inspection stations where it was effective at the entry level on the roads into the states. In any case, it became a successful program. It took 3 years for the Corps to get the letter report done from 2014 to 2017 before any money could flow. And then other states started to say, oh, this is a good program. We should get into it. So they added another 8 states and 3 watersheds. And we had to fight to get the appropriators to put more money into the pot instead of just $6 million. So that's where we are today. There are 12 states in the program. The House has it in the budget and the Senate has 0. So we have to make sure that our senators know how important this program is in order to continue the inspection stations that are our best defense. And I guess that's it. I just wanted to let you know the history and that, with the fines positive in Idaho, this is an absolute emergency for Washington State. It's never been closer. We have no idea if villagers are in the Columbia Basin today. And it's eternal vigilance and monitoring is critical. So I just thank everyone here. I know, the tribes, all of you who are on the ground. It's super important. I am just committed to making sure that in every state, we are making sure that legislators understand the importance of this issue. And we will also be doing our darndest to make sure that the Senate puts the appropriation back in for next year. With that, thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Mary, for the work it's critically important. And what we're talking about here, being able to really map out what do we do if, and how are we monitoring our water bodies is totally essential. And as all of you know, the Columbia watershed goes up into Canada and comes back down. So we're also doing this work in Canada because it's vitally important that they are protecting our watershed as well. So thank you very much.